Yeah, buddy. That's from my buddy Ronnie Coleman, recipient of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award at the Arnold Classic. Great to see Ronnie again. We had him on stage Friday night for our Friday night seminar, usually on Sundays. This year moved to Friday. We had some great guests on that stage, of course, with Arnold himself joining in. Victor Martinez, Mike Ashley, and Cedric McMillan, all previous Arnold Classic winners. Big hats off and big congratulations to the big man himself, Ronnie Coleman. What a great acceptance speech. You can see the emotion just pouring out of Ronnie as he was overwhelmed with getting a Lifetime Achievement Award from Arnold himself. All right, we're going to get right into it because there's a whole bunch of stuff to cover. I have never seen such misinformation out there immediately after a competition. And this is no disrespect to the other podcasts that are out there, but come on, guys. You got to do better. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff, conspiracy theories, corruption, this and that. This is so stupid that it almost doesn't respond, doesn't require a response. But I feel like I need to give you one, okay? And not only am I going to give you a response, but I'm going to give you the official response from the IFBB Pro League, from the mouth of Steve Weinberger himself, who was the head judge at the event. Sandy Williamson, of course, taking the honors on the women's side of things. All right, so what's been being said out there? For those who are unaware, or if you haven't seen some of the other podcasts out there, there is allegations of discrepancies with the scoring. Now, here's the funny part. If you think there was anything weird going on, why would the IFBB release the score sheets? That's the first thing that comes to mind, right? You got to consider this stuff. Number two, everybody seems to be a mathematician and an expert these days. Well, unless your mathematician skills are coming from Mike Z, the algebra wizard himself out there, okay? None of you guys know what's going on. You clearly don't know how the scoring works because some of the things I've seen put out there, and listen, I've seen some extensive podcasts and things out there that with highlights and different areas being shown and highlighted on the scoring. Well, you can see right here, it was 5 points and there's 7 points here, so clearly they did this. You guys are just guessing. You have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I'm going to actually clear up this thing for everybody out there who wants to really know how the scoring works in the IFBB Pro League, and in particular at this year's Arnold Classic, because it's very specific to the scoring here at this show, as opposed to other IFBB Pro shows, and I'll explain why in just a moment. First and foremost, okay, for all you idiots out there who believe you got it down, well, you can see right here, Nick Walker has 5 points, which means there were 7 judges. High and the low got tossed out. That's how you get to 5. It was unanimous across the board. You are absolutely, unequivocally, without question, wrong. Okay? There wasn't 7 judges. There was 9, first and foremost. Okay? And there wasn't a high and a low that was tossed out. There was 2 highs and 2 lows that were tossed out. So you could automatically scrap all your scientific jargon and your mathematician skills and all that. You could just scrap it all. You're automatically wrong. So for all those that said on your pocket, well, I'm just guessing, but I think this might be the way, and well, I could be wrong. Yeah, you are wrong, okay? You're dead wrong. That alone puts you out of the category of even having remotely a chance because there are so many mathematical equations. And I'll go you one step further. It was not unanimous across the board until the highs and the lows got thrown out. So Nick Walker, and again, this is nothing against Nick Walker, okay, because Nick Walker, and we're going to go through this stuff, okay, when we go with the breakdown. I don't think anybody didn't have him in first place, okay? That was a given. Now, if Bonac was here, that might have been a different scenario. But we're not going to deal with that, and I'm not going to slight the win by Nick Walker because he earned it fair and square across the board. Most of the people, I would think, would agree that Nick Walker was the best bodybuilder on that stage. Done. That said, the real competition became for second and third between Steve Kuclo and Ian Valliere. Okay, both good very good bodybuilders. Ian's been on a tear this year. Okay, winning a couple of shows and coming into the Arnold en route to the Olympia. Good for him. And Kuclo, and we're going to get more into depth into what I think about Steve's choice of shows this year and such, because I think there were some management issues there of why he chose to wait as long as he did. And listen, there could be reasons behind that I don't know. Okay, I'm just speculating on that. Okay, but keeping with this judging, was there a conspiracy? Well, how stupid is that? What's the conspiracy? I'm still waiting to figure out from any of these guys putting out all this garbage out there, and some of these shows are appropriately named because half the stuff you're hearing is BS, okay? What's the conspiracy? What's the corruption? You can make a case for Steve being second. I personally had him in second place. I understand why the judges felt that he got moved to third, okay? You can make that case, absolutely. Maybe you can make a case for seventh and eighth, I don't know, or sixth and seventh, but you can make a case like that in any bodybuilding show. That's why they have 9 judges, and that's why they throw out not only the high and the low, but 2 highs and 2 lows, okay? It's to ensure that there is no monkey business going on. You wouldn't do that if there was, because you could pad that up if there was such a thing going on, all right? If there was some behind-the-scenes stuff going on or conspiracy, or they want to get this guy in there. Let's address the obvious, okay? I've heard this stuff all year long. The last show, the conspiracy was that they were going to give it to Kuklo because he's not qualified yet and the other guy is. Well, how'd that work out? It didn't go Steve's way. Now, could it have gone Steve's way? You can make a case for it, but I thought it was pretty clear. Steve wasn't 100%, and he had the Arnold coming up. So then the conspiracy becomes what? They're going to give it to him with the Arnold because he's not qualified? Well, that didn't happen, even without Bonac in the lineup. So you could throw all that stuff right out. The judges scored it as they saw it. Now, what did they see? Well, they saw Nick as the clear winner. We can surmise that. They saw a battle between Kuklo and Valliere in 2 and 3. Now, Steve was clearly in second place after the prejudging, but here's the other part. Here's the other 50% of what you don't know, and especially these guys putting out their expertise, air quotes, okay, into what they thought went on. What you don't know is the Arnold is the only show that the posing round is actually scored. Why is that? Because a couple of years ago during the seminar that me and Arnold put on Sunday, the Sunday Showcase, he reiterated his want for the posing to be scored. He thought that was important. So Jim Mannion said, no problem, then we will score your show in the posing round. We're not going to do it across the board because that's not the format for the Pro League and how the scoring happens, but we will do it for you, Arnold, as a courtesy. Great. So the other thing that everybody doesn't know, okay, nobody realizes, is that you have an extra round of scoring here because that's what Arnold wanted at his shows. And the Pro League, to their credit, honored that, okay? So now you have to factor that in. If you look at the judging sheets, you'll see that there's a posing round scored and the finals. That's why you can't figure out the scoring process. That's why all you're adding up. You can see this guy's got 14 and this guy's got 17 and all that. It means absolutely nothing. You had it wrong right from the start, okay? If you're going to go out there and talk, your opinion on that, at least get the facts right. Now that you know this, you guys can all go back there and you can fact check me. That seems to be the thing to do these days, all right? And you'll see that I'm absolutely right. This is from Steve Weinberger. He was the head judge, okay? So you can't even dispute this stuff. This is just the way it is, all right? Take that for what you will. The posing round gets stored separately. Now, there's a posing award, which Sergio Oliva won. I don't have any issue with that. Love Sergio. I had him much higher in the ultimate in my pregame picks. We'll get into that in a few minutes. He didn't quite bring it, but he did bring the posing, and for the second consecutive year, puts $10,000 in his pocket and a Best Poser award. That was judged separately because that's for a separate award, okay? But the actual posing round is judged. Now, we're going to get into this because this is where everybody messes it up, all right? How are, not grammatically correct, how are the physiques judged in the Pro League and for the Pro League judging format, okay? Yes, there are different rounds, okay? The symmetry round is not judged just for symmetry, okay? Listen, this is as symmetrical as they get, right? It's as symmetrical as you could possibly be. It's a pen. But if a guy walked up on stage and looked like that, you go, he doesn't have any muscle. So should that guy win the symmetry round? No, of course not. It's a bodybuilding contest, right? So the symmetry round is a round that the judges are assessing the physiques of the competitors in the relaxed position. Those are called the quarter turns, okay? Now, you get into the free posing, all right? The 1 minute routine that everybody sees at the prejudging. Are they judging the posing? No. They are judging the physique in transition, in the act of posing, okay? In transition and going from one pose to another. and the flow of their routine. They are judging the physique while posing. Now we get to the comparisons. What are they judging? Well, clearly they're judging your physique in comparison with the other guys next to you, or girls, whatever it might be. That's where the real competition takes place. You might as well literally call the other 2 rounds assessment rounds, okay? Because they're looking and they're getting an idea of who they might want and where, and this guy looks really good, and I got this guy in my... You see when you see those judges and they're doing this, when those guys first come out, you know what they're doing? They're putting them where they approximately think they need to call them out. First call out, maybe the top 5 or 6 guys, and that changes. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6. Depends on how many guys show up ready to play ball, right? You know, this guy I think is going to be in the second call out. This guy I think is going to be in. That's what's going on when you see those pens moving, okay? Now they get out there and they compare. Well, that's obviously the sport of bodybuilding. It's all in comparison and how you best look next to the other guy and what they got, okay? Now, let's get into the mandatory poses because, again, this is where people don't know what they're looking at. When you do a front double bi, they are not just looking at your biceps, okay? They are looking at your biceps and the rest of your physique in the front double bicep position. They are looking at your entire physique in the lat spread pose. They are looking at your physique in the side chest pose. You see where I'm going with this? You got 8 mandatories, or 9, whatever it is, if you add in your best classic pose, that type of thing, that they are assessing your physique in that pose. So a back double bi is not, well, he beat him in the back. He beat him in the back. What about the hamstrings? What about the calves? What about the arms? What about the waistline? What about the actual pose itself? Is it a good-looking pose or is it awkward? They're not just looking at your back. They're looking at the entirety of the physique. So I hope this clears up a little bit when you guys are watching at home. And by the way, that's a whole other point that we can press on here and explain, because what you're watching at home, the lighting was not great at the Arnold, okay? They tried some different things, all right? It wasn't the best I've ever seen. It actually looked better as they went back, but everybody knows bodybuilders want to go towards the front and towards the middle, you know, and then you see that the expediters keep pushing them back, right? So the lighting was a little shadowy, especially if you're watching online, because for what I could see, it was much darker on the screen than it was in person. How can you tell that? Because if you look at the pictures look like the whole place is lit up. So what you're watching at home isn't necessarily what the judges are seeing. They're as close as can be. And then there's the whole perspective thing, okay? Whether you're in the 10th row, the last row, and then there's the vantage point of whoever's watching. I did an article years ago for one of the magazines called Vantage Point. And it was all about who's watching and what they have into it. If you're a fan, okay, you're looking at it through a different set of glasses than I am, okay? Because you like this guy, or you like his physique, right? You know that's your goal, that's your idol, you know. So we all have them, okay? You look at them differently than I do, and certainly that the judges do. They're looking at a physique. They're not putting into account, you know, that you're a big fan of this person or that type of thing. You know, the girlfriend, the wife, the husband, whatever. They're all looking at it from their own perspective. So that's something that you've got to take into account when you're watching this stuff. Now, just to put a cap on this whole thing with the judging format and all that stuff, clearly these guys are morons that are out there putting this stuff out. And the clickbait, it's pure clickbait. Look at the title. That's going to tell you everything about it. Corruption, controversy. What was the corruption? What was the controversy? Again, I'm going to look down. We're going to go through my assessment now of the show. Where is the controversy here? Where? Bonac didn't make it in. Well, that's a controversy, right? He couldn't make it in. He screwed up. He got delayed for, he thought it was a 1-week quarantine. It was a 2-week. Listen, that's here nor there, right? He didn't make it to the show, so he's out. So, but where's the controversy? Nick Walker wins. That's as easy as it gets, okay? Ian and Kuklo, could they have been the other way? Yeah, but by a preponderance of the scoring, they weren't, okay? Steve was ahead of Ian after prejudging. From what I could see and from what I've got from the judges, and including a conversation with head judge Steve Weinberger, okay, this is from his lips. Kuklo started to fade at night, and Ian came back and he was a little sharper at night, all right? And they were very, very close. And because the posing routine is scored at the Arnold, that's where Steve gave up enough ground for Ian to jump ahead of him, because they were like this after prejudging. Steve was in the lead, but it was by the smallest of margins. They were both very good. Ian was in a little bit better condition than Steve. Steve has a little better physique. As I said in my pregame report, okay, the last podcast, Cicherillo has the best physique out of all of them. He controls his own destiny. So this isn't a problem with the judges or anything, that type of thing, right? There was clearly no reason that they would want Ian ahead of him other than the fact that they were looking at physiques and they're making their assessment. Cicherillo controlled his own destiny. If Cicherillo showed up at 100%, he wins the show. Yes, he beats Nick Walker. You heard it here, okay? He's got a much better, more pleasing physique, more complete, big boy, 285 pounds, right? The whole thing, good-looking kid, presents himself well. If Steve Cicherillo was 100%, he's the Arnold Classic champion of this year. But he wasn't. Okay? You take what you get after that. He opened the door. Nick Walker closed it behind him. Okay? Ian, no complaints, man. This kid does a lot with that physique. Yeah, he's missing some things. Yeah, the calves ain't great. Yeah, the arms could be a little bit bigger. They're a little up and down. Okay? He doesn't have the most pleasant physique in the world, but you know what? He ain't bad either. And he showed it here with a runner-up finish and 2 wins to his credit just this year. He will be at the Olympia. He's very consistent. As you see, he doesn't show up off too much. So good for him. He earned that position. Can't take that away from him. I tell you what, who I'm giving my star on the forehead to this show isn't any one of those guys. It's Justin Rodriguez. How about Justin Rodriguez comes up and he's 4th place at the Arnold. Tremendous improvements, great physique, presents himself well, great tan. I mean, all those little things that kind of come into play. I got to give Justin credit, man. You know what? He's a little unsung because you hear a lot about Cicherillo and Ian and Nick Walker and all that. And that's to be given. Listen, Nick Walker deserves all the credit in the world. He's fantastic. Can't wait to see him at the Olympia. Yes, I had him in like 5th place, fighting for 5th in my predictions. So I was way off with Nick. Now, again, I was counting on Bonac being there. I'm counting on Steve. As I said, okay, the caveat is, I did say, I qualified it by saying we're going on the idea everybody shows up in 100% shape, okay? So, got to give myself a little bit of a pass on that. And he took well advantage because he showed up in condition and in shape. Akeem Williams, 5th place. Akeem missed the mark. Listen, you can't be off that far off and expect anything more. I mean, he was soft. He was very soft. Now, he can make that up. Akeem came into the competition as the highest ranking guy in the show with a 6th place finish at the Olympia last year. So it was literally his show to win or lose if he could bring it. Well, he didn't. He was big. He's muscular as all get out, but he was soft, especially from behind. He's got 2 weeks to clean it up. If I was him, if I was running his camp, I'd be dropping 5-6 pounds, maybe even 7. He's a big dude, man. This guy's got more muscle than pretty much anybody on that stage. If he can do that, he will once again be in contention into that top 6. Do not be surprised if Akeem Williams is in the first call-out at the Olympia again. No surprise at all. Now, this next guy was a surprise. 6th place, my man Cicherillo. I gave him huge props before the show. I said if he nails it, he could be contending for the win. I'm sticking by that. If he nailed it, he would have been up there. I don't know necessarily if he beats Nick Walker, okay, but he would have had a damn good shot, all right? It would have been a real good competition with those 4 guys, Ian, Cicherillo, Walker, and Cicherillo himself. But Cicherillo came in a little bit bigger, but he sacrificed conditioning for it. You can see the midsection wasn't as tight as it could be. He was a little bit soft. He got a little bit better as he was going. Okay, you can see that at nighttime he was a little bit, but everybody, listen, generally speaking, 95% of the guys are going to come in sharper at night. Why? Because you just posed your ass off all day. All that water weight, you were sweating out there, the whole thing. You probably ate up a little bit after prejudging. All that sodium coming in will tend to fill you out a little bit, and the water is wrung out. So a lot of people show up better at night. So all things being equal, that's not really a game changer. You might be able to get a spot or 2 up, maybe. There is no provision. I don't care what Cicherillo showed up at night, that you're going to go from 6th to 1st or 2nd. You're not jumping 4 spots. Maybe you go from 6th to 5th, maybe even 4th. But you need 2 things to happen there. You need to come back noticeably better, and the guys in front of you need to come back noticeably worse. If they're even close to what they showed up like in the beginning at the prejudging, then all things considered, you're going to be about the same. You might be able to move a spot or so, okay? That's it. So for those wondering, and again, I'm a big Cicherillo supporter. I love this kid. And let me tell you something. Don't count him out because he's got the size now and he's got the improvements. All he's got to do is bring it down one notch, and this guy's a contender for his next show. Whatever show he does next, I'm going to say right now, he wins. And I don't even know who's in the show, but he's that good, okay? Big kid, a lot of muscle. He's put together. His posing is great. He's very theatrical in his posing and all that, which I love, because I think we could use all that kind of stuff that we could use in this sport, okay, with individual personalities and things like that. So, Sergio, fantastic job. Congratulations to our top 6 in the Open. Nick Walker, we'll see you at the Olympia. Now, I'm not going to give you Olympia predictions yet, because that's the next podcast coming up in just a few days. It's going to be all about the Olympia. But this Arnold was fantastic this year. Only 4 divisions, but you know what? All 4 represented. And if all roads lead to the Olympia, then the Arnold is a super highway, okay? And keep in mind, we're going to be back with the Arnold in just 6 months' time, because they want to get back on track. Set to be back in March of this next year. So 6 months, we'll be back on that Arnold stage. And we're going to see who brings it at that point. All right, Classic Physique. This one was an easy call for me. Terrence Ruffin, bringing it all, had enough. I thought he was a little soft. I thought he opened that door a little bit, because Alex Cambronero, the defending champ, was right there. Didn't let anything down. Looked as good as he did last year. But Terrence Ruffin, man, this kid is put together. Also got the best poser, was in contention for the best poser award. But basically, there's only 2 names, and we'll get into that in just a second. Logan Franklin taking that one. But you literally could have flipped a coin and given it to either Terrence or Logan. I thought it was a good call. I'm sure Terrence is a little bit more pleased that he won the show rather than the best poser award. So that's a win-win. Alex Cambronero, you look good, guy. You look good, but Terrence Ruffin, just a little bit better on this one, Alex. We'll see both these guys back on the Olympia stage, of course. Logan Franklin, my man. 3rd place finish. Absolutely fantastic. $10,000 in your pocket for best poser, courtesy of Dr. Morales out there. Big hats off to the tip of the bill to the doc out there for putting his money where his mouth is. He loves to support this division. $10,000 his way. Courage Opara, Brian Jones, and Jarrett Crew rounding out your top 6. Okay, Danny Noonan, I had him in that top 3 or 4. He came in just a little bit off and it knocked him down to 7th place. Peter Molnar, he came with a lot of speculation. He comes from a different federation, made his way over to here, mustered an 8th place finish. And I got to give a big shout out to my man, Tony Tavares, and 9th place in his first Arnold. You represented well, man. You look great. Nothing but going up for Tony Tavares. All right. Can't leave the ladies out. You know that. Bikini. My prediction, I was hedging back and forth. Hedging between Laura Lee and the lovely Miss Jennifer Dory. Guess what? At the end of the day, I had to make a pick. I picked Laura Lee, and I was wrong. Jennifer Dory took it all. Listen, come on, it's bikini. They all look great. Issa Bicini absolutely redeemed herself from that dismal Olympia finish of last year. She's in the top 3 here, a 2nd place finish, a former Olympia champ. I tell you what, this is set up huge because there's no returning champ. Janet Leahy was called it a day. She's retired. That means it's up for grabs. Jennifer Dory, Issa, Laura Lee, Kultwasser was in there, 3-time Olympian in her own right. Any one of them could win the Bikini Olympia coming up in just 2 weeks. That's how close these girls are. Congratulations to Jennifer Dory. Well earned. And of course, fitness, my favorite division of all time. This was set up from the start. You had Olympian versus Olympian versus Olympian. Missy, Oksana, and Whitney Jones. Whitney Jones comes up COVID positive when she got there. Out of the show. Listen, she took it like a trooper. Nothing she could do about it. Says, I'll regroup, and I'll see you at the Olympia, ladies. Missy ends up winning. Of course, no surprise there. Oksana, best routine of the night, of course, because she's so inventive and all that. But at the end of the day, Missy just had too many strength moves and too much power for Oksana to deal with. So hats off to her. And, of course, Ariel Kadar, one of our best newcomers, rounding out that top 3. We'll see all 3 ladies, and Whitney Jones will be back on the Olympia stage in just 2 weeks' time. So congratulations to everybody. Big hats off to Brian Powers and his crew for an excellent job at the Olympia, for an excellent job at the Arnold, where we're getting ready for the Olympia. And they just knocked it out of the park. Great to be up there with the big man himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I appreciate these guys inviting me into their show and letting me do what I do. That's going to wrap it up for this this edition of the Voice of Bodybuilding podcast. Hope this clears up everything. Guys, subscribe to this channel. If you got questions, I'll clear them up. And it's coming from the top, right from the Pro League. Don't bother with these other things. It's all, well, Listen, it's all in the title, right? Listen to the titles of these shows out there. It kind of tells you everything you want to know, everybody. Listen, back at the next podcast, everything is about the Olympia, previews, my picks, Bob Stradamus. It's all coming.